Precious. My name is Precious. My name is Precious. My name is Precious.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Search. Today we're looking into the Georgia Guidestones, otherwise known as America's Stonehenge. Stop me if you've heard this one. A guy walks into a monument making company and says, hey, I want a huge granite monument made, but I can't tell you who I am. Here's a fake name. Haven't heard that one yet? Well, it's a good mystery we can all sink our teeth into, so let's get started. In June 1979, a man walked into the Elberton Granite Finishing Company and asked to have a monument built unlike anything the company had ever built before. The strange man did not want his name to be known and instead wanted to be called R.C. Christian. Mr. Christian commissioned a monument truly like no other. The monument stands at 19 feet 3 inches tall and at a combined weight of 237,746 pounds, made of 4 large granite stones with a large capstone and a central column stone. The 4 large main stones of the monument are called the Guidestones because written on them in 8 different languages are a set of 10 guidelines or principles that Christian, and as he put it, a group of like-minded individuals must have felt the human race should live by. The 10 guidelines are to maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature, to guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity, to unite humanity with a living new language, to rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason, to protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts, to let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court, to avoid petty laws and useless officials, to balance personal rights with social duties, to prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite, and to be not a cancer on the earth, to leave room for nature. And again he says, leave room for nature. The capstone reads, let these be guidestones to an age of reason, in 4 ancient languages: Babylonian in cuneiform script, Classical Greek, Sanskrit, and ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. The monument also has features to find the celestial pole of Earth, the annual travel of the sun, and the sunbeam hole to mark noontime throughout the year. Possibly what keeps the Georgia Guidestones famous and popular throughout all this time since 1980, aside from the mystery man who showed up to build it, is the symbology of the Guidestones themselves. And I wondered when I was researching the stones, is it the symbology in the stones that keeps them popular, keeps them famous, or is it the imposed symbology, what we imagine to be there for symbology with the stones? I think the best way to explore that is with the new addition to the stones, a little cube that was put in on the English block back in 2009. A cube was actually cut out of the English block, 6 by 6 by 6 inches. And then in 2014, the cube was replaced by a new cube. And that cube had new block faces on it. It was just faces that had numbers and letters on them. And no one knew why, it just showed up. And all of a sudden there was all these internet theories coming out, conspiracy theories by the Illuminati, the New World Order, and devil-worshipping theories, and all kinds of mathematical theories going on. The block faces had one face with the number 20 on it, one with 14, one with the number 8, one with the number 16, and then the next face had J-A-M on it. Then there was another face with M-M. And it was speculated online when I was looking at all the numerology and all those other things that were going on. People were adding the numbers together and coming up with the end of the world dates and saying, the Illuminati had planned the end of the world on this date and all these things. And I did see somebody had turned JAM upside down and said it possibly meant war, and that war would break out on a certain date. And MM, stood for 2000, and then the 14 on there showed in 2014 something was going to happen. And of course the dates passed and nothing ever happened. And as it turned out with the stones, we had all these people speculating with all this stuff. And in the end, the stone itself was actually put there by a man named Michael Massinelli. And he had married Jennifer Ann Massinelli, her new last name, after marrying him, on August 16th, 2014. And that's what the numbers and letters represent. JAM, of course, is Jennifer Ann Massinelli, and MM is Michael Massinelli. And then the numbers are the date, 2014, and 8 and 16 for August 16th. So after all that speculation and all the internet rumors going on and everything about the symbology behind that new cube that was put on, all it was a marriage date. And what happened actually on that date, Michael Massinelli married Jennifer right there at the Guidestones on that date. And back in 2009, when the original block was cut out and removed, it was removed by a man named Will Ellis. And he never really told why he did it. He was a big numerologist and big into the occult and conspiracy theories. And he took the block, and then he actually came back and tried to put the block back, saying he didn't want the weight on him anymore. And that's when he got caught. Other theories I saw was the theories about how many cameras are put on the stones. But we actually went down to the stones. We went down to look at the stones, and we went to the museum there in Elberton, the Granite Museum. And we kind of got a private tour of that museum. And there was really only one camera there, and it was put there by the sheriff's office in Elberton because people were defacing the stones and everything. So with the block, what it showed me more than anything is that a lot of the symbology with the stones are imagined. They're imagined by people looking at the stones because they don't know what they're there. It's kind of mysterious to them, and so they just add all this stuff on. And really, I don't think the creators of the stones were trying to hide too much except for their own identities because they didn't want to be public figures, it seems. But they wrote pretty much on the stones what they wanted to say. So it doesn't seem like a lot of symbology to me on that, and that a lot of the symbology itself is truly just imagined by people, and that's what keeps the stones interesting and keeps people coming to look at them. There are only two men that definitely knew R.C. Christian's real name. One was Joe Finley, Elberton Granite Finishing Company president, and the first man to meet R.C. Christian as he walked in the door, introduced himself as R.C. Christian, and started explaining the monument he wanted to build. Joe Finley thought he was a kook and tried to run him up a price that was way higher than what it really should be for the monument. And when he did, R.C. Christian just nodded, shook his head, and told him that's fine, that he would pay that. So Joe Finley introduced him to Wyatt Martin, who's the president of the Granite City Bank, and Wyatt Martin is the only other man that actually met R.C. Christian in person. And Joe Finley and Wyatt Martin, due to legal reasons, did have to be told the real name of R.C. Christian, but they were sworn to secrecy. Because for some reason R.C. Christian really wanted to remain anonymous. He even sent the money when paying for the monument from multiple banks, so the money couldn't be traced back to find out who it was paying for it. He said he represented a small group of loyal Americans who wanted to build the monument and had been planning the monument for over 20 years. Due to the secrecy, it has been speculated that is a group of maybe Nazis was one that's thrown out, Luciferians, Rosicrucians, due to the name R.C. Christian. Rosicrucians have definitely been thrown about as maybe the small group, but it's really not known. And Wyatt Martin, he's still alive. Joe Finley has passed, but Wyatt Martin is still alive, and he's been interviewed and interviewed and interviewed by people trying to get him to tell the real name, and he just will not tell. He said someone could put a gun to his head, and he still would not tell. That's That's a loyalty right there. That's crazy. You don't find too many people left like that. Most people would have sold R.C. Christian out, for money. Really, I'm sure someone would have paid Wyatt Martin to find out the true identity. But so far, no one has really been able to get him to talk. Now there is a documentary made, Dark Skies over Elberton, where they may have tricked Wyatt Martin into giving the identity without him really knowing it. But in honest truth, no one knows who he is, who R.C. Christian is, and I don't know if we ever will. But that mystery, the mystery of who it is and who the small group of loyal Americans are and all that, really keeps the Guidestones alive and keeps the interest in the Guidestones alive. So in doing the research for this episode, we did go down and visit the Stones, and we did get invited into the museum, the Granite Museum down there, by the curator. The Granite Museum was closed, but he was nice enough to invite us in and give us a private tour. And he did show us some newspaper clippings for the wedding that happened at the Stones, which is very nice of him. He did demystify the new cube. And when you do research online, you're just going to find all kinds of stuff about the Illuminati New World Order and satanic worship and all kinds of stuff. But when he showed the wedding paperwork to me and the newspaper clippings and everything, it was just amazing how simple the solution to that was, and how way out there the theories can go, with the symbology behind that. So I thought that was very interesting. He did also pull out a book called Common Sense Renewed. It was written by R.C. Christian, and it showed that R.C. Christian and his group of loyal Americans are huge fans of Thomas Paine, who wrote the original Common Sense back in the late 1700s. And Common Sense Renewed did outline the reason the Guidestones were built. And what it was is, during the Cold War back then, they thought that a nuclear war was right around the corner, and they didn't know who would survive that war. So they did put the guides up in all the different languages. So whoever survived hopefully would at least know one of those languages from that group that survived, and they would be able to build the new society after that nuclear war using the Guidestones as a guide to do so. And it's also why the Guidestones had the holes in it where you could tell the North Star and the solstices and things like that. So it would serve as a clock and calendar for the new society after the nuclear war. That's clearly outlined in Common Sense Renewed. So that's definitely the reason that the monument was built. And when it was built, R.C. Christian did want to make sure that it could survive a catastrophic event. That was one of the outlines he provided to the Granite Company when he wanted the monument built. Definitely why he wanted to have it built was the nuclear war. But as far as his identity goes, I'm not sure if that will ever truly be known, at least not the full identity of the small group that worked with him. Dark Clouds over Elberton, not Dark Skies, as I said earlier, but Dark Clouds, is a good documentary. They do have a pretty good theory on who R.C. Christian was, and they do have good evidence on that in the documentary, so if you want to watch that one, definitely do. It's a pretty good documentary. Other than that, guys, that's the conclusion on this one. It is still a mystery on who the small group of loyal Americans were, but some mysteries have been solved with it. And thankfully, the nuclear war has not happened, at least not yet. And hopefully the Guidestones themselves will keep interest for tourists for years to come. Guys, thank you for watching this episode of The Search. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button or like button if you liked it. We do have a few subscribers building up. And it really helps grow the channel. So if you guys want to help support the channel, go ahead and do that. We'll keep making these videos for you. Other than that, make some comments if you have any comments to make on that. And we will see you next time.
My name